What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Cole Mize with ColeMizeStudios.com, bringing you another segment of 5 minutes to a better rap flow. And today we're going to be talking about something called scatting. Now, what is scatting? Scatting is something we basically do as rappers when we're first listening to an instrumental and we're trying to try on the instrumental, if you will, get a feel for how we could rap to it. We don't have any lyrics for it yet. We'll just start off with scatting, and scatting is basically mumbling gibberish, nonsensical words to formulate cadences, to formulate a nice flow to a track. It's also something we do while we're working on a track. So while we're in the writing stage, let's say you have a good idea of what the song is going to be about, but you want to make sure it sounds musical. So as you're writing your verse, let's say you're on, bar 3 of a 4-bar section, you start scatting and start filling in that scat with actual meaningful words. And that's how you make sure that all your lyrics are very musical, because it's the lyrics, or it's the cadence that drives the lyrics. So scatting is how we achieve that. Now, scatting is probably what I do more than anything as a rapper. I can't stress how important scatting is, in my opinion. It's what changed the whole game for me with my raps. And scatting is one of those weird things that I stumbled upon. It was something I naturally started doing, and it was always in private because it sounds so weird when you scat. And it's not something you necessarily want other people to hear. It's something you're doing behind the scenes while you're trying to work your stuff out. So, when I first began teaching people how to rap on YouTube, I was a little bit hesitant about sharing scatting because I thought it was a little weird and I didn't know anyone else who did it. And built up the courage and said, screw it, it helps me out, maybe it'll help somebody else out. And I was pretty shocked to quickly realize that a lot of other people are doing this, and they felt the same way I did. They didn't know anyone else did it because it's something we do in private. So it was kind of cool to see that. And so let me just really quickly demonstrate what I sound like when I scat, and then I want to share what I believe some of the techniques are that develop my scatting skills, if you will. Again, this is not something that I was ever actually intentionally trying to get good at. It was something I started doing to try to improve my lyrics and my raps and make them sound better. So anyways, let me go ahead and just scat to this track right now, and then I'm going to break down some of the concepts behind how I do it. All right, here we go. Feed the ground of a leg, sit the palm of the bow, feed the ground of a break. I fit the kind to below, how do with the pound to believe, pile of a lead, titty for the ground of a seat, time of the beat, how do with the cat to the beat, pop of the beat, beat it with the pap of the beat, pride of a tea, titty when the cat to fold the phone crack, for the cat to fold the phone rack, how do when the pat to fold the pole crack, see the when the pat to fold the phone rack, hit it when the pass to the feet of woe, I fit the count of a time to a tea the pole, I fit the ground of a line of a leader though, I beat the Peter when the pine for the bit of pole, I fit the ground of the pole, beat it when the soul, how do with the prime to a tea the pole crow, how do with the pass to the tea below flow, when they get up on the brine cause the tea the pole. I know when the path to fold the fold waking. Peter with the path to fold the fold waking. I see the when the grad to fold the fast to fold. So when the cat of a tea the pole baking. I put the brass to a tea, cry to the beat. Fatter when the pine to a tea, high for the beat. I know with the cast to the beat, high for the beat. Hit it with the prime of a lead, high for the beat. I know with the kid of a dope for the fold crack. Hit it with tat the phone great to the pack. I put the faster from the fold when the crack, when the faster the prime with the Peter Pone pack. So there you go. That's just a random raw scat for you. And it's crazy. Do you hear how some of that sounded good? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's how I start off. And that's a skill. To be able to do what I just did there is just a skill that you develop over time. But you have to start somewhere. And that's what I want to share with you today, is some tips on how you can start scatting right now. So let me go over the fundamentals. Again, this is not something that you probably want to do in front of people. They might think you're possessed with a demon, or you might need an exorcism. They might call the mental hospital, like, hey, he's talking to himself again and he's not making any sense. But basically, to summarize it, is this: I'm just mumbling sounds. Okay, that's essentially all I'm doing, is just mumbling sounds. And so this could apply to any language, across the whole world, as you just get those sounds that we use when we're speaking, and you use those to scat. You don't have to think of real words, you just think of sounds, right? And so one of the sounds that I'm using all the time is ah sounds. So la, ba, na, da, sa, ka, pa, ra, just ah sounds. Again, these are sounds that don't have long tails on them. So these aren't S words. Like any words that have S on the end of it, or words that have like T on the end of it, or like a K on the end of it, these require more emphasis to take up more space. So typically when I'm scatting, I'm using a bunch of sounds that don't require a lot of space, and that allows me to be very flexible and very free when I'm scatting. Another set of sounds that I use are sounds. For the same reason that I use sounds, I use sounds. Just a slightly different sound. So same thing, la, ba, na, da, sa, ka, pa, ra. Okay. E sounds. I'll use, sounds with the E on the end. I'm like B, C, we, ki, pi, ni, li, mi, re, fi, di, ti. And I also use O sounds like lo, bo, no, do, so, ko, po, ro, fo, to, o, wo, ho. And what I found also, let me just talk about this. O sounds is typically something that I've noticed that I place where I'm trying to mimic a rhyme scheme. So that gets into something else that I'm also doing when I'm scatting, is I'm also playing around with rhyme schemes. And I personally usually use O sounds to place a rhyme scheme. Not always, but it's just something I've noticed that I'm doing. There's no rules to any of this, but I usually use the ahs, the sounds, and the E sounds a lot. It's just my general gibberish. I draw from those different sounds, and then I'll typically place O sounds where I'm trying to mimic a rhyme scheme, basically. So for an example, let me scat again. Now pay attention to the O sounds and how they fall on the fourth beat. Check it out. So when they prat like feed it with the cats with the pine like hit it with the brine like I did it for flow. Feed it when the cast of the breed don't know. I feed it when the past the deep in the boko. Had a tap up with the baton on the low. Tip it the breed with the baton like a flow. Hop it the red up with the baton like a low. See how I'm using all those O sounds on the end of it? You can even hear me messing up a little bit on those words in there. And it's not even a big deal because we're scatting. You know what I'm saying? That's the whole purpose of scatting, is just being free of thought. I think of it as like taking clay and molding it, and that's what I think scatting is. It's like you're taking clay and you're trying to mold it into something you think is really dope sounding. So I use O sounds to place rhyme schemes. Also, something else you can do while you're scatting is play around with your delivery. So you just have all these notes now, all these words, all this gibberish, and you can also play around not only with rhyme schemes and cadences, but you can also play around with your delivery. Listen to my delivery right here. I went the crowd like flow, sip it the pasta with the brine like hop in the grit for the baton like sit it with the cast when the brine like foe. I live it the batastafo, tab the pro, feed it when it cast the flow, crack the foes, defeat it when it cast the foe, grab the foes, defeat it when it cast the toe and grab the foe. See how I just kind of created a big rise there at the end? You can also play around with your delivery. And I'm typically doing all these things at the same time while I'm scatting, because when I first pull up an instrumental, I'm trying to get a feel for that track. I'm trying to get a feel for what can I put on that track that's going to complement that track and take it to another level. Okay? One more thing that I use is I use a combination of notes to create 30-second notes. So when I need to do something really fast, I use a combination of one of these right here. Like I'll go ba, or ba-da-ka, or ba-da-sa. These are just a combination of words I know I can use at my disposal anytime to create that 30-second note really fast, almost like drum roll feel. Ba-da-ba, 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 ba-da-bad like whoa. Bid-da-ba-tat when the crowd like vote. Bid-da-ka-tat when the brine like low. Bid-da-pat when the brine flow. Bid-da-bat, bid-da-bat, bid-da-ba-dat, the when the pat, when the pat, bid-da-ba-tas, the when the crowd like bat, bid-da-ba-dat, the when the pat like that, bid-da-ka, 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 I put the cap when the prat like flow. It's just a combination of words I know I can say really fast, but most of these words here, you can say really fast. That's why I use them. So I usually have like a crutch, if you want to call it, like for 30-second notes. I found myself just instinctively using a combination of like words I can just say, I know I can say really fast if I want to use those 30-second notes and really get them off the tongue really fast. One more thing I also notice that I do is I use a combination of like multi-syllable words with N on the end of them, like beeping, keeping, seeping, leaking, creeping, peeping, teeking, reeking. And I just use those just so I have a different sound. Peter Batasta on the breeping, Pata Batasta fo creeping, Peter Batasta fo leaping. I feed it when it crack, the fight the fo seeping, Teeter when it grad like fo the fo reaping. See how I'm also using that as almost like the end of a rhyme. The same thing I was showing you with the O sounds. I can also use the peeping, teeking sounds. But this is just, this is just giving you a little insight onto how I scat. There's no rules to this. I'm not even saying this is exactly how you should do it, but this is the whole concept behind it. Is you just learn just different sounds that you can use that you don't have to think about. This isn't about memorizing anything. This is all about being free and trying on that track and experimenting with it. And you just have to start. You just have to start. You're not going to sound necessarily as good as I do right now when you first start, because I didn't start there, you know, but the most important thing is just starting. You know, this is probably what I do more than anything. I'm scatting all the time. You know, if I'm in the shower and I have an instrumental playing, I'm scatting. So it's even gotten so bad to the point where I found myself in the car driving, just sitting there in silence, and I had the turn signal on and it's making that little sound, and I start scatting to that. If I'm in the grocery store, I'll be scatting quietly to myself. I'll be scatting over the music that's playing. It could be country music, it could be R&B, it could be hip hop, it could be pop music. It really don't matter. I'm just scatting all the time, and that's keeping my musical muscles really sharp. So anyways, that's a good introduction on scatting and what it is. So you just got to start somewhere. So start today. So I hope that you found this to be helpful. If you did, and if you're new to my channel, make sure that you hit that subscribe button along with that bell icon, because I'm always dropping new videos to try to help people such as yourself be a better rapper now. And while you're here, go ahead and get yourself a copy of my free ebook, The #1 Fundamental to Rapping, which I think will help you out a lot. All right, this is Cole Mize with ColeMizeStudios.com, and I'm signing off, and I will see you tomorrow. Peace.